Hi, everyone. My name is Raji Barham, and I'm the CEO of amigoCloud. Thank you for being here. I'm here with Daniel Caldwell, who's our GIS director. We're planning on doing a few more webinars about different mapping topics. We're always looking for suggestions. So if you're interested in a particular topic, please don't hesitate in leaving some feedback after the webinar is over. So in exchange for your time, we're gonna do something for you. Um, we're gonna we're gonna teach you about three powerful open source mapping tools that hopefully you're aware of, and if you're not, then after this webinar you will be, and show you how is it that you can use our amigoCollect product to integrate with it. Um, so going back to this, just a few rules. You will see an interface that looks similar to this during the webinar. It may be looking slightly differently depending on what version of operating system you are, if you're on Linux or Mac or Windows, or what version of Windows it is. But it should be in your upper right. You are able to ask questions during this webinar that Daniel, who's with me, is going to be answering. You can also raise your hand if you have any questions, and Daniel will be happy to stop me and jump in and answer any questions you may have if he feels that it's appropriate. Um, so I guess to start testing this, we're going to start with a little poll here. So I want to know how many of you are currently using open source tools. You will see the screen switching really quickly, which will let you answer the questions. So here we go. I'm going to leave a little bit of time for people to answer. Perfect. So there's a few more votes, 68%, 74%. A few more seconds. Perfect. So really quickly, it looks like not all of you are currently using open source mapping software in your organization, and about 38% of you are. So this is going to be interesting. It's hopefully it'll be something that will teach you something new here. So we'll go at is at amigoCloud, we actually love open source. A lot of our tools for the past 4 years have been built on top of open source. We contribute a lot to open source. We have seen an increase in usage of open source tools in different GIS organizations. So it's not usually an either or type of proposition, but it's something where you can use it in conjunction with what you already have to improve your processes or lower cost in many cases, if not all. Just quickly, I'm just going to go with what amigoCloud is for those of you that are not familiar. So we're a collaborative enterprise mapping platform, and when I say collaborative, I truly mean it. So from the ground up, when we started building amigoCloud, we wanted to make sure that it was made for enterprise use case. So that meant having multiple people collaborating in a mapping product and a mapping project, and being able to create visualizations and analysis and all that. During our time, we basically have created two products. The first one, and the one that we're going to be centering on, is amigoCollect. amigoCollect enables you to use your, it's a full-fledged data collection system that enables you to collaborate with multiple people using iOS and Android devices to collect data, and then put them on the cloud and be able to create maps, do analysis on it, and so on and so forth. What is interesting about amigoCollect is from day one, we've been implementing a lot of OGC web services and standards. So that means that you're easily able to connect with various open source packages. And we're going to go over three of them today. Just quickly, everything that I'm going to be showing you, the collaborative editing, the advanced offline, connecting to desktop and open source desktop GIS, connecting to mobile and then web-based cloud open source GIS. It's all included in our plans. So the other product, just quickly, I'm going to mention that we have is Amigo Platform. If you already have a pre-existing software where you need to add mapping functionality, then you can use our Amigo Platform SDKs to spatially enable your pre-existing software, or be able to create some custom work. So going back to to another poll, we want to know how many of you are using cloud technologies in your current organization's mapping efforts. So let me see if I can do another poll here. Mhm. Perfect. So it looks like a lot of you guys are already using some sort of cloud technologies in your mapping efforts, and about 37% of you guys are not. So yeah, this is going to be interesting here. So so going back to when we talk about either using and open source or closed source GIS software in general, we're usually trying to you know solve this specific problem, right? Specific problem is you have some people on the right that are generating some data for you. It could be people out in the field, it could be a sensor, it could be somebody else that is collecting in some way. And then what usually happens is there's somebody in the main office that is using either some proprietary software or some open source software to actually collect all the data, organize it, and do all the management. Right, all the management can mean either moving it to a data store. There could be an enterprise data store, SQL Server, Postgres, or PostGIS, Oracle, or in the worst case scenario, a whole bunch of shape files. And then every time that there needs to be visualizations generated, he will generate reports and maps, and giving it to upper management so they can make decisions with that data. So this somewhat encapsulates what we do with mapping software. Now, what usually happens is for somebody to have an end-to-end solution for these things usually means that there's multiple components that you can use, whether they're proprietary or open source. But a lot of the times, what happens is that you end up with finding multiple problems in different parts of this section, right? Especially if you're combining proprietary with open source, or just proprietary solutions or just open source solutions. Although this problem seems to be something that should have been solved, and it is solved in a particular way. It's usually not the most efficient way that it's solved. So moving data from your field crew all the way back to your enterprise database, regardless of what software is it that you're using, it's going to be a pain. So for those of you that are already using some cloud technologies, you can realize that a lot of it has to do with synchronizing and making those processes more efficiently. For those of you that are not, this is actually a good way to learn about this. So instead of me, giving you more slides and talking about the benefits and all that, I want to go run over and show you, three tools that you can use, open source tools, in conjunction with our amigoCollect product to be able to leverage a full-blown GIS. Now, one thing that I will do here is apologies first for the people that have never seen amigoCollect. This is not a beginner's webinar. We have other ones where we introduce the product, so I may go a little bit too fast at showing the traditional functionality. But yeah, if you have any questions during it, just feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll get back to you at some point. So let's go and start a web browser here and log in to amigoCloud. So amigoCloud's web-based GIS, I'm going to show you our amigoCollect product first. I'm going to set up one from scratch. So collaborative project, I can put all my GIS data in the cloud and then connect to other open source tools. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So the worst thing is that I'm doing this live, which is usually a recipe for disaster, but let's see how it goes. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cloud-based data store. You can think of it kind of like a geodatabase in the cloud that is enabling us to have a database out there that can store all the data and visualize it and collect it and do all that stuff. You can see over here that there have a whole bunch of other projects of people that have shared the projects with me. So you can only see the projects that you have yourself here. And let's see. Okay, so one thing that I'm gonna do also is share my mobile application so you can see it. So here, let's see, QuickTime. And here's my mobile application. So you can see it here. I'm gonna start it, put it on this side over here. So quickly, there we go. And we're gonna start our, you can see this over here. We're gonna start our mobile application here too. Collect. You can go and download this application from the iOS or the Google Play Store and be able to connect directly. You just log in and connect to that database. Now, while I'm showing you this, I also want to ask you for a second question here. How many of you have heard of GeoServer? So let's start with that. Right, leave it a little bit. And if not, I'm going to close the poll and show the results. So it looks like most of you have not heard of GeoServer, and that's a shame. So we're going to show you a little bit of it. So GeoServer is an open source tool that enables you to publish WMS services. So what usually happens, you can find it at geoserver.org. I'm going to show you first where you can go and download it. It's basically an ArcGIS server but for free, right? So you can go and install it, and it has an interface that enables you to create some web maps, and you can style them, and as long as you're running your own infrastructure there, it enables you to be able to show that the data online, right? So WFS, WMS, all these different kinds of OGC web services. What I happened to do this morning is I've set up a GeoServer instance at geoserver.amigoCollect.com. And I'm just going to show you a little bit what it looks like. What it enables you to do is basically add layers and create maps, right? So I have a whole bunch of layers that I've created over here. Let's go a little bit to some administrative areas, and enables you to, you know, choose what fields you're going to be publishing, how you're going to do your tile caching, basically all the stuff that most people pay $35,000 a year or $65,000 a year for certain providers. You can get for free. And so what I've done is I created a very simple map here that you can see. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. So very simple map, not like my best, you know, work in terms of styling, but it's meant to be looked at closer. So what this enables me to do is grab, style some maps, and then publish them as WMS services. What happens with Amigo Cloud is that we are able, here, let's see if I can see one source one. We're able to go and be able to connect to different WMS services. So if I go here and I click on base layers, I'm able to connect to any other WMS service. What this means is that I can go and I can put the WMS address of this here. I'm gonna go and connect to this WMS address and connect it directly to my Amigo Cloud URL. So here, GeoServer WMS. What this enables me to do is literally connect to any kind of WMS service and be able to just pull data directly from it. So in this case here, I'm gonna go and move this over here. And let's see, tap the webinar. So this is the Amigo Cloud application. I have different layers that I can see over here. And when I click on WMS, then what I can see is that my Amigo Cloud application has connected with the WMS service here, right? So I'm able to go and see the map, and I'm able to be able to just connect basically to any other kind of WMS service that is available to me. So I'm gonna go over here, log in really quick, go back to my webinar, open source webinar project, and be able to show you the base layers. Now, other things that we can do is we can also connect. I don't know if you're familiar, but if you're trying to connect to any of the other WMS services out there, you're able to simply go and add any of other WMS services out there. For example, the national USGS has a whole bunch of services that they publish as WMS services. So technically, I can go and copy any of these services. For example, there's some imagery here, copy that link address, add as a base layer over here, put the URL, and basically be able to connect to it, right? So here's the layer, here's the different layers that I can see. So I'm gonna call this one nape. Just go with a nape. load it. And for some reason here, when we zoom in, we can see that there's some green grid that USGS is publishing their nape imagery with. Notice that this morning too. Zoom in a little bit here to San Francisco. Our base layer shows up. The WMS from nape loads. It's going to load at the same speed that they're able to transfer this information. And simply like that, right? So now you're able to connect amigoCollect to any kind of WMS, whether it's something that's coming from an ArcGIS server or it's something that is coming from a GeoServer. If you have your own imagery, you have your own GeoServer, your own map server, you're able to connect to that server using this functionality over here. So that's one. Let's see, close this, and I'm gonna ask about a second application that I don't know if you guys are familiar with. How many of you have used QGIS or heard of QGIS? Okay, perfect. So let's close up all here and share the results. All right, so it looks like I'm surprised, but most of you have used QGIS, and so that's great. What we have is we have a plugin that enables you to connect amigoCollect to QGIS, and I am going to show you how to do that. For those of you that are not familiar with QGIS, QGIS is one of the best open source desktop software out there. So what I'll do is I'll show you a link for QGIS desktop. So you can go over here and you can download it for your particular platform. You said it's available for Linux, for Windows, for all these different projects, for all these different operating systems. If you want instructions on how to install this, you can go to help.amigocloud.com, search for QGIS, and you will find a installation for beta. So it requires you, it's still under beta, but we have many people that are using it in production. So basically, you have to set a few environment variables that are required by the system, and then you can go and use the QGIS plugin manager. I'm gonna go ahead and show you how is it that you can do that. Since I'm on a Mac, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. And I am going to start my QGIS application. If you're in Mac, you can install it via Homebrew. If you are in Windows, I would extremely recommend you look at this OSGeo for Windows. It's a project that already has all the binaries and makes it really easy for you to install most open source GIS packages. So here we have QGIS, excellent desktop GIS. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into plugins and manage and install plugins. This will connect to the different repositories. If you search for Amigo Cloud, you will find us there. And so you're able to just go there, click on install, and install the application. As long as you have the environment variables set for your particular platform, you should see this web file here, that drop down that enables you to use the Amigo Cloud plugin. What's cool about it is that it uses our tokens. So again, one of the requirements is that you will need to use a particular login token. So there are instructions in our help files about how to generate API tokens. What you do is you grab that token, you copy and paste it in this interface, and you are able to basically look at all the projects that you have. So here I am going to see that the same projects that I have on the web have already been connected through this API token, and I'm able to see the same projects. So if I go and open this open source webinar, I can see the data sets that are inside that project. So that I can go back over here and go back to open source webinar. These are the same projects that I have preloaded. And so here, let's go play with this parcel data set over here that I have already preloaded in amigoCollect. Some parcels that I loaded in San Diego. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add the exact same thing, that live connection to QGIS. What this enables me to do is to have a live connection. So if I go back and I start modifying my data either on the mobile device or start modifying my data in on the web, then everything syncs. But the beauty of this is that because this is a live connection, I will see the changes immediately. And so in this case, for example, I'm gonna go here on the web. I have some maps, so I'm gonna click on this feature over here on the web, and I'm going to edit it. So hit edit to edit on the web. This is simulating somebody going in either on the web or on a mobile device, editing the feature. Hit save. The moment that I hit save, it gets saved the in the cloud database. But if I go and I zoom in over here, you will see that this feature changed. Now, what's cool about having this live QGIS connection is you effectively have the equivalent of very expensive editor license from a different provider. If you look at some of the proprietary solutions, it's not uncommon that they charge $3,000 for something that can connect to a multi-user database. Here, for the most basic plan, you have multi-user editing with cloud support on the web. So instead of paying the $60,000 of all the different licenses that you need, or the $3,000 per editor, now you can use as many QGIS licenses as you have amigoCollect users for literally a small fraction of the price. So here, what is it that you can do with QGIS? Oh, there's all kinds of things. I'm not gonna go in a little detail, but let's see what we can show you here. So one is that full desktop GIS means that you can go and do labels or some sort of advanced mapping, right? So here I'm gonna say, yeah, let's show some labels. Let's label by, I don't know, owner name, and show it on the centroid, or maybe do some type of formatting. Not sure. So here, perfect. I can see the labels on the centroid, or I can even go and do editing different projections on the fly, right? So I can go and be looking at this in UTM, be looking at it in World Robinson, and different kinds of projections. Do my typical layers and grids and things like that, and be able to just use a full-blown GIS. Um, so this is actually great. A lot of our customers are using this in production. There's still a lot of improvements that we do every week on the driver, but it's an excellent option for you to be able to have a full-blown desktop GIS that is connected to a cloud database that syncs with mobile devices. All of a sudden, you have an end-to-end solution for this, right? So hopefully that makes sense. to you guys. There's one more tool that I want to show you that I don't know if any of you are familiar with. Um, Hopefully you've heard of it. Like, how many of you have you heard of GDAL or Gouda? Let's do a poll. So perfect. A few more seconds and we can close the poll and share the results. So 31% of you have used GDAL, and a lot of you have heard of it but have not used it yet or have never heard of it. So that's going to be a really cool tool that I'm going to have the honor of showing you guys. Um, so the first one is I'm going to go here and open a new. I'm going to type GDAL. And GDAL is a command line tool. So there are many user interfaces. QGIS has a nice user interface for it. But basically what it enables you to do is to write from a particular format to a different format in a command line way. So if you actually look at the vector formats that it supports, there's several vector formats that it supports. So you're able to create certain files and update other types of files, but this enables you to move data. It's almost like, for those of you that are familiar with FME, it's an ETL tool. It's FME uses GDAL internally to be able to move data from one format to another. And so here, for example, you're able to move files between KMLs and shape files and different things. Cool thing is that there is an open source API for amigoCloud. So it's one of the formats that is supported. What this means is that you're able, if you are collecting data in your mobile device or editing in QGIS while connected to amigoCloud, you're able to exchange all the edits that you do on the cloud and show them, and translate them to a different format. So, for example, what I'll do is back here in this example with the parcels, I'm going to create a really obvious parcel so you can see. I'm going to go here and create a really big, just parcel out there. So you can see that over there. And here, let's see. Perfect. So now get a little problem here. Let's do it again. Perfect. And so what you can do here, I'm just gonna go over on this side, and hopefully you can see this. If not, so the GDAL tools, again, you can download them here. If you type OSGeo for Windows and you download this application, it basically has an installer for QGIS and it has an installer also for GDAL that has the amigoCloud browser. If I go, and it's a command line, but you can find interfaces that that basically make this a little bit friendlier. Sorry, OGR info. I have multiple versions of it. OGR info formats. If you do that, then you can see there's multiple files that I can exchange with. The cool thing about this is that I can go and connect with one of my, let's see, I'm going to show you a little bit. If I went and I typed OGR info and pass in a particular data set, I can show you that I can connect to it. So this ID, there are two IDs here that you have to look at. One is the project ID and the other one is the dataset ID. They correspond to, let's see if I can see it over here. They correspond to these particular IDs. So here there's the project ID 15198. That's 15198. And the dataset ID is 97302 on 97302. So let's connect to that one instead. So this enables me to connect to that data set, right? So if I wanted to go ahead and spit out all the values that it had on the screen, this, what is effectively enabling me to do is just to go ahead and then show me the values on the screen, right, of that I have over there. So the other cool thing that I can do with this is there's this OGR to OGR command that enables me to change between formats. And again, it might seem a little bit, let's say, intimidating, but it's really not once you get used to. Basically, what this enables me to do is to translate between different formats. So, for example, if I wanted to translate between an amigoCloud, a data source and an Esri shapefile, and store all the output to temp that shapefile, then I can use this command to be able to create a local copy of my of my cloud database, right? So now I have the ability to go out and extract all the information and make it local. This is great because it does other things, as you can see over here. For example, on the cloud database, we can accept really long field names, but in the shapefile, there's a max of 8 characters. So the tool takes care of like truncating and doing the little quirks to make sure that you can get that. So if I go and I look at my temp folder where I put the out files, you can see that now I have different files, right? So if I open it, now, and I'm going to turn off these guys. Now I have these local parcels that I've basically copied from a local shapefile from a cloud. So it's not like I'm stuck at having my data out in the cloud. Now I'm able to pull that data back out, right? And it's not the only format that it's supported. Like in this case, I put a shapefile, but let's say that I wanted to generate a KML from my cloud-based data store. I can say, hey, generate a parcels.kml, and what that's going to do is going out to the cloud, grabbing all the data that's in the cloud database, and generated this KML file locally. So if I go and I open that parcels.kml in my temp folder, I am able to go and log in and see that parcels that I created that got retrieved from that KML data store. So perfect. So those are the 3 tools that we wanted to show you. We don't want to take more of your time. If you have any other questions or are interested in finding out more or have suggestions for future webinars, we're going to do this one again soon, showing some other functionality. Please don't hesitate in contacting us. And that's it. So thank you. We're going to take a few questions right now. I think we have time for a few. So let's see what we have here. Daniel, I don't know if are there any questions that you have had that you want to.
The only question I have is what version of GDAL you need for the OGR plugin.
Okay, yeah. So the version. So somebody was asking about the GDAL version. So the GDAL version is 2.2 or higher. So it's in the 2 branch. I think we're gonna port it to lower branches, but as long as you have the 2.1, 2.2, it should work fine. Otherwise, thank you for attending. And yeah, any other questions, just feel free to email us at info@amigocloud.com. Thank you.